And I think we are live. Hold on, let me just close this door. No, keep staying there, mate. Come to that in here. We are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 28 of the live Q&A or dog handler Q&A/talk. Haven't got loads to talk about. If anyone's got anything they want to talk about, then feel free to drop into the chat and bring up some maybe some topics and that we can talk about. Maybe we've got a couple of bits that I've heard throughout the last few days about stuff which I found quite interesting. Obviously had the Coop. Wait, leave that alone. Wait. Sorry, my high vis is in here and these balls in it, and he's just smelt it. Obviously, we've had the Pause for Security podcast over the last couple of weeks. Seems like it went down reasonably well. I think the numbers have been pretty good in terms of watching, etc., and listening to podcasts more than watching, don't you? But yeah, I think there was some good information in them two podcast episodes from me and Aaron, UK Security 101. So yeah, who have we got in? Chip King. Hi mate, how's it all going? Yeah, it's going pretty well. I've had a bit of a strange day because I had a knocking on the van when I was braking, and I took my foot off the brake. There was like a knocking sound. So I was meant to be going to the mechanic for like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then so I finished at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then the mechanic said, "Oh, like, can we make it 2?" So I was sort of caught in the middle. So I had an hour sleep with mum and dad's, then realised it wasn't going to be till 2. Then went home, had another hour nap, then come back because obviously I had to come back here to feed the dog, and then I've had an hour. So I've had like 3 1-hour naps throughout the day. So I'm struggling a little bit. GC, hi, evening all. Hi, mate, how you doing? So yeah, I'm a little bit broken up on my kind of sleep for today, which is just part and parcel of it, isn't it? It means I'll probably get a decent sleep tonight before work tomorrow. But yeah, I think that's another thing with working night work and doing the job that we do is that when you need to get the van serviced, the van MOT'd, or the van looked at, etc., it's always going to put you out a little bit more. So you obviously have to make sure that you don't plan too much in between shifts. For example, I normally get home about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I have to be back out the door by sort of 3:30 again. So planning something in between shifts has to be quite regiment. But even though doing that, it just cannot sleep. So yeah, but like I say, I'm just running on sort of 3 1-hour naps today, but I'm feeling pretty good. So I've got football training after this, and then have a decent sleep tonight before work. So like I said, yeah, 101 is good. Yeah, like I say, I enjoy doing the podcast with Aaron. I feel like we get some good information, some good chats. I feel like we come at it from different sides as well. Like a lot of that you would have seen. We don't have disagreements, but we have our own opinions. And a good thing about the Discord, I haven't done that again. Good thing about the Discord is very similar to me and Aaron, is that even if you have opposite sides to stuff, if you have opposite sides to certain stuff, it can be a discussion. It doesn't have to be an argument or anything like that. I actually found something. I saw something online the other day. Yesterday was it? I think it was, and it was a post about e-collars, and it was about e-collars and prong collars. And basically, the picture was someone just a hand holding up a prong collar and an e-collar, and basically the post said that they're against using e-collars and prong collars. I think this is on Facebook, so obviously it's open for commenters or whatever it is. And like I say, the post was holding a prong collar and e-collar, and they went into a bit of a spiel about how they're against e-collars and prong collars and the use of them, etc., etc. And then the bit that I found in it. Did I break up then? Am I breaking up? Maybe I'm a bit better now. One of the only issue I had with it is that at the bottom of it, obviously after they said that they're against it, which is fine, people are for and against all sorts of training tools, etc., is that they said that only comment on this if you support what we're saying. Anything that is positive against using e-collars and prong collars, their message will be deleted. This isn't a discussion. So basically, they just put a post out that said, this is where we stand. No one's allowed to tell us any different. If you are going to tell us any different, then we're going to mute you. And I think everything with dog handling and dog training and things like that is that you have to respect other people's. I respect people that don't want to use e-collars and prong collars. I don't use e-collars and prong collars, but that's because I've not been taught how to use them. I've not had the need to go any further than like a slip collar. But I think everything in dog handling and certain things like that, you have to respect that other people will have differences of opinions on certain things. But I think you can't just mute other people because you don't agree with what they say. And I think that's the good thing about these lives, that people can come in and we can have discussions and people can ask me and I can give my opinion. Sometimes I might not agree with you. You may not agree with me, but we don't try and mute each other. Like, I would never mute someone in the chat because they've got a difference of opinion towards me. And I think that's a big thing with security dog handling, is that we have to respect each other, but it'll be okay that people have differences of opinion on certain stuff. And in the podcast and that, me and Aaron are very good at that. We can have a different side to something, but respect each other's views on it and not get into an argument and not try and mute each other. No, I'm not. If me and Aaron disagree on something, I'm not going to turn around to him and say, well, you're not doing the podcast anymore if you don't believe what I say. So like I say, you just have to respect that other people have differences of opinion and not try and mute each other. Mr. Briers, keep me going on shift then podcast. Very glad to hear that. I think it's with the podcast sort of episodes and that, it's a funny one because a lot of my videos are sort of typically between 10 and 20 minutes long, normally nearer the 10-12 mark, or 10-15 minute mark. I think it's always interesting to see how many people are going to listen to an hour episode of a podcast or a half-hour episode of a podcast. I think they have their place in my channel and sort of the rota of videos that I make. I think they have their part, because there are people that want to listen to something for longer than 10 minutes, or they want to get more information and someone else's side. So I think they are a good part of it. And listen, like, there's going to be lots of people that I think, well, I'm not going to sit there and listen to this for an hour. I'd rather just get my information off the 10-minute videos, which is fine. But there, like I say, with like you, Mr. Bryce, there are people that want to listen to that kind of stuff and will listen to the longer version. So I think they have their place in my rota of videos, as well as the short videos and the medium length videos that I make as well. Porsche K9, hey buddy, hey mate, how you doing? I hope everything's going well with you. I know that I'm not taking any credit for this, but I know that you've now been working through a contact that I gave to you. It was someone that offered me work that I couldn't do, and I knew it was in your area. So I'm hoping that is going well. I know you started a couple of weeks ago, was it? So I hope that's going well. Porsche K9 said, very one-sided conversation, as they don't have a good argument. Training tools used in the right way can help communications with the dog. Yeah, and like I say, that's a very good point, is that that is a very one-sided conversation, but we can't, people that are for using training tools in the right way, can't shut them people down and mute them because they don't want to use some of the tools. I know I've done a short YouTube video, or YouTube short, whichever way they want to say it, about how to put on a slip collar how to take off a slip collar, but also about like sort of the right size of a slip collar. And even on there, there was someone that was quite hysterical about not using a slip collar because you can kill your dog or the dog can kill itself, etc., etc. And I didn't really shut that person down. Someone else commented on it and explained to her about how anything you put on the dog, it can cause injury to itself or whatever it is. You just have to use it the right way, etc. And like I say, it's just about having a conversation and not muting people. And that was the thing about that Facebook post, is the fact that it said that we're against e-collars and prong collars, and if you want to comment anything different to what we believe, we'll just delete your comment. Well, that's not the way in which people can have free speech, and that's not the way in which that you go about it. But there you go. It wasn't my post, so I can't be blamed, and I can only say my side of it. Pushcan, I really appreciate, mate. Yeah, going great. Good to hear. I'm very good to hear, because I know that you've gone on a bit of a journey getting to where you are now, and it's good to see that you've started doing what you wanted. I was speaking to a handler this week, and it was quite an interesting chat. So I got a message off them. I think it was about July 2020, I think it was. And it was quite an interesting chat, and in which was it 2020 or 2021? I can't remember. But anyway, I got a message off them over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and it was them saying that what I was doing was their dream job, etc., and how that was their goal, is that they wanted to get into the industry and doing what I was doing. So I remember getting that message and thinking, oh well, because obviously I was quite early on with my YouTube stuff and things like that, and it was quite nice to get them sort of messages that people were saying, look, what you're doing is what I want to do, and watching your videos is helping me like want to achieve it, or helping me get the information in order to get to where I want to be. And the most disappointing thing about the conversation I had with him is that after a few months, he's already planning about what he wants to do next. Like he wants to go into the training, which I understand. Like I've always said that I think there will become a point in my dog handling career where I'll want to do something a little bit different. Like I might not want to be in my 50s and working on sites. Maybe I will want to have something else, and maybe YouTube is a little bit part of this, is that I'm trying to reach out to more people to be known. But maybe I don't want to be in my 50s and working on a site. And but what I'm doing now, I'm really enjoying. But I feel like the way in which, when I was speaking to him, and that is that after 2 months, he's worked so hard to get to where he is now. And after 2 months, he's already planning like, right, I don't want to do this for very long. And I don't know whether that's maybe my videos coming over the wrong way or whatever it is, but I feel like a lot of people do get into this job thinking it might be something different. And I think a lot of it is the company you work for, the people you surround yourself with, and the way that you're treated. I think in this job where it's obviously a lot of lone working or whatever it is, if you're not looked after properly or not looked after in the right way, I think your passion for the job can go very quickly. And like I say, after like a couple of months of being in the job, he's already thinking about where he can go next, rather than continuing progressing as a handler, etc. And like I say, everyone is in this dog handling industry for a different reason. Some people are in it because they really like being on a site and that's what they really want to do. Some people are getting into it so that they can learn how to train a dog, and then they can move on to being a trainer, etc., and things like that. And like I say, I don't know where my progression from handler to trainer would how long that would take. But some people are like, well, I want to do it within a couple of years. Some people are saying, well, I want to be a trainer in like 10 years. But I think you have to be careful with this, is that you surround yourself with a good company where you get treated right and your passion for the job isn't extinguished very quickly, because you can be sent out into some really crappy sites early on, not really looked after, maybe what they promised isn't what they've given you, and very quickly you think, well, if this is what it's going to be like, then I want to go and do something else. So I think if you feel like when you first start, if you don't feel like you're getting looked after, there will be another company out there that will treat you better, or there will be another company out there where you can surround yourself with some better people. And I haven't done it again. Every time I do this, I will put a Discord link in this. I think the Discord is a good thing that we do with handlers on site. Like even last night when we was working through the night, we was just keeping each other company, having some chats and different things like that. And when you are lone working, sometimes when it gets to 2-3 o'clock in the morning, maybe sometimes it is just all you need to say, text into the group and say everyone's still awake, and then you can just have a quick chat for a little bit, and then that spurs you on to go again, rather than just sitting there on your own looking out into the darkness or whatever. So I think if you are getting a little bit down, or your passion for the job is kind of extinguishing quite quickly, have a look at maybe why that is. Is that because the companies that you're working for is not looking after you? Like Prestige has always been great with me, and I've never had to worry about not being looked after, etc. So that's possibly why my passion for the job has run into 2 years or whatever it is. Or how long have I been doing this? No, just over 18 months, something like that. But that's why I'm still quite passionate about it and things like that. If I was working for a company where they just slung me on any old site and didn't look after me, maybe my passion for the job would have gone quite quickly as well. You don't know that. It might not have, but yeah, I feel that was just a disappointing conversation that someone that's been aiming for this for so long has very quickly, after a couple of months, thought, you know what, this actually isn't what I want to do. So, but like I say, he's not going to be coming out. He's just putting his aims on to becoming a trainer or whatever it is pretty quickly. Right. Chip King, speak to Paul and he might be able to help you become a trainer once Terry retires, if he ever retires. Yeah, that's quite interesting, because I was at training last Friday, and it's looking like January. That don't quote me on this, but I think they're looking at the sort of January next year. Terry's going to hang up his lead as such. I don't know what trainers call their tool, what trainer tool it would be, but he's going to be hanging up his lead in terms of being a trainer, and then Paul will be taking on. And yeah, I mean, you know, I get on with all them guys down there, and hold on a minute. You know, I get on with all the guys down there, and I get on with Paul very well. So when Terry does end up retiring and Paul takes it on, it's not going to be a massive change for me. It's just going to be a continuation of what I've really been doing for the last couple of years, etc. So yeah, obviously I would speak to them and get their advice, because I do trust them with what they say and different things like that. So that will be a conversation I would have, but I'd have it once I'm ready. I'm not going to rush into it just because with NASDO. So with NASDO, you have to be a handler for 2 years before you can apply to become a NASDO trainer. And I'm not looking at, well, in December of this year, which will be 2 years, I'm not saying that that's when I'm going to start becoming a trainer. I'm going to enjoy doing what I'm doing now and see where it takes me, and then go from there. So I've not pinpointed a date and say, right, this is when I'm going to start looking to become a trainer. I'm just going to take it as it comes and see what happens, see what opportunities open up in front of me, and then go from there. So Operator 6, who is UK Security 101, for people that don't know, apologies for being late. No worries, mate. I hope you're good. I was speaking to him last night, and I think he done a small marathon last night, which was quite something. Chip King, Paul will be very good. Yeah, like I say, I was training with them on Friday. So the next 2 videos that I've got coming up, you have got this Saturday is questions with my trainer. So I did put it out to the Discord and some others, and just said, look, have you got any questions? this wasn't a given. When I turned up to training, I asked Terry if he would do this, and he said yes straight away. So basically, all I wanted to do was just sit Terry down and just say, right, Terry, I've got some questions for you. Some other people got me a couple of questions, and then just going to ask him. And that's what the video is. I think it's about 10 minutes long with a bit of chat from me either side. And it's just questions with Terry. So they're quite generic. They're not very hard hitting, because I think there's going to be lots of questions that maybe subscribers and that want to ask, which if you comment on the video this coming Saturday, maybe on the next one, I will be asking. I can ask him them questions as well. But they're just things like, what do you find annoying? What would you find annoying if someone turned up and done something? So if someone turned up to one of these sessions, what would they do that would really annoy him? There's things like what's the best quality in a handler? So if he was making his ideal handler, what would be their best quality? And I think it's important just for maybe some new handlers or people that are getting into it to listen to what Terry has to say in terms of what he is looking for in a handler when they come to training, etc. And then there's a couple of subscriber questions at the end, which he gives some good explanation on, and maybe some questions that you thought about when you've been looking at my videos. He answers them. So this coming Saturday is some questions with my trainer Terry, and then the week after is a bit of training from that session. So there's two parts to the video, and I think it's quite interesting. Is that a lot of you might have seen online, probably about a month, 2 months ago, whenever it was, is that there was a video from protesters when they was climbing over the fence, and the dog handler was the other side. I think he had a Doberman, possibly. Don't quote me on that, but I've got a feeling it was like a Doberman, and he was trying to stop them from climbing over the fence, and the dog wasn't really very vocal, etc., and things like that. So we done a similar scenario to that. So I was put one side of the fence, they was the other, and in the video you can hear Terry say, right, we intend to climb this fence, so this is what I expect from your dog, and this is what I want to see from your dog. And so that's the first scenario. So we done sort of like a fence line. We done sort of like a fence line scenario, and I think the dog done pretty well. And then the second part to that training session was some sleeve work, and it was quite interesting. So once we'd done sort of the fence line stuff, I said, look, can we get the sleeve out, because I just want to try and test something. So a lot of time you would have seen with sort of the sleeve work that me and the trainer do with the dog, and that it's the dog goes onto the sleeve and they'll have a bit of a tussle. They'll use like the soft stick to touch the dog, make sure he's not letting go, maybe tap him on the nose to make sure the dog doesn't let go, etc. And I said, look, do me a favor, do all of that stuff. And then on the third one, I asked him to try and grab the dog's collar, obviously in the safest way that he can, because in my head, I explained this in the video, so I'm basically telling you what the video. So in my head is that when the dog goes on to someone's arm, I would think someone's natural reaction would be to grab the collar or grab around the neck. And I wanted to make sure that if someone did that, grabbed his collar, that the dog wouldn't come off the bite and then back off, not knowing what that is. So I just wanted to test that. So like I say, I think we went on the sleeve once and he done the touching around, etc. I went on the sleeve second time and won it. And then on the third one, I just asked the trainer if he can try and grab the collar to make the dog uncomfortable to see if he'd let go. And I won't tell you what the outcome was. You have to obviously watch the video. There's no point in me telling you all about the video, because then you won't want to watch it, will you? But yeah, that's the second scenario that we was doing, and that was something that I came up with when I was sitting in the van. I was thinking, what would happen if someone grabbed my dog's collar when he was biting? Do you reckon he would let go? And obviously, training is the best time to do that. Because my trainers obviously dealt with dogs that want to try and bite him, etc. So he's still reasonably quick, even though he's elder or experienced in age. he can still read the dog quick enough that he can move his hand. Obviously, if I try to do that with someone with less experience, by the time they realise the dog's going to try and bite them on the hand, the dog's already bit them. So my trainer can possibly, this is obviously a guess, my trainer can possibly realise that the dog's going to come off and try and bite him quick enough that he can get his hand out of the way. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting for you guys to watch, and I think it's quite an interesting video for them people that said that they don't believe my dog would try and bite skin. But you have to watch that video and you can make your own mind up and put your own comments on that. So yeah, they're the next two videos. You've got some questions with my trainer, and then the second one is sort of a fence line and some sleeve work training. So they're the next couple of weeks before the next live. And like I say, the last couple of weeks have been the podcast, so it's quite good to be obviously a bit different for a couple of weeks. So has anyone got any, or you done 24 patrols in total? I know you was clocking up over the 20 patrols on a shift, but 24 was your total, was it? Because I clocked off and was on my way home before you even finished. So yeah, has anyone got anything that they want to talk about? Any questions? Any topics, etc.? Oh. My dog, as I said, is still young, but my concern is vetting out a decent company. I'm in Hertfordshire. Is that, just to clarify, is that vetting a decent company is in a decent company to work for, or is that a decent company in order to do dog training, etc.? Hertfordshire, I don't really know too many. I obviously know some companies that are around the Essex way. The problem with me to work for, I can find out for you. I can try and have a word around. Now, obviously, I've only ever worked for Prestige, so it's very hard for me to say this company's good, that company's good, because it might be good for the people that I speak to that have worked for them or whatever it is. But I can probably have a chat about and see what anyone's got to say. Like I say, I know a couple in Essex, etc. But what I will do is I will speak to you somehow, and I'll ask about for you and see if I can get you some companies that you can at least go and have a chat for. But like I say, I wouldn't have worked for these companies, so it's hard for me to say, because like I say, someone could say, oh yeah, this company's really good, etc. But maybe they're really good for what he wants to do, but maybe it's not as good for what someone else wants. So I'll have a chat around with you. I know that you've got Britannia. Is it Britannia Canine, which is like Danny Lyons? Again, I've not had any dealings with Danny. He's obviously well known, but I've not had any dealings with him. I can't remember who the other one was, which is really going to annoy me. But I will find out for you, and I'll message you somehow about some companies in and around the Hertfordshire kind of area. But yeah, if anyone is watching this, whether it's live or whether it's back, or once this goes out, once I've finished, if you know any companies in and around sort of the Hertfordshire area, so sort of North London to Essex to, I don't know, what's sort of northwest? Is it Buckingham? No, it's not Buckinghamshire. That's around the other side, isn't it? But yeah, if you've got anywhere sort of around the Hertfordshire, North London area, or Essex, maybe just put them down in the comment section below so that GC can have a look at this maybe later on and he can see some companies. Danny Lyons focuses more on the bite work than anything else. I was talking, Essex and Buckinghamshire is fine as well, so that's okay. So if Essex, Buckinghamshire, sort of North London kind of area, obviously Hertfordshire would be good. If anyone knows any companies, good companies to work for in them areas, if you could put them in the comment section below, try and help someone out that's looking to get into dog handling, etc. It'll be really good. MEC Security Essex from Chip King. Now I know Chip knows a fair amount of companies who've been Maine MANEK9. So GC obviously in the chat you can see that Chip King's named a couple of companies around them areas. But yeah, there was something I can't remember what it was. There was something else that I was going to talk about today, but I know I had the Facebook post that I saw and things like that. But there was something else. But yeah, if anyone's got anything else that they want to have a chat about, GC with the podcast, did they answer all of your questions in terms of how to nurture a dog into sort of the security kind of stuff? Because I know that you asked me the question sort of after we recorded it, and you was asking about trying to nurture the dog into sort of the security world, and I think in the second episode, I think I'll go into a little bit about how I got my dog into it. Although my dog was older than yours, how I got him into it with like doing like 10, 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, and then obviously going to training and all that. Did in them podcast episodes, did they sort of answer more or less all the questions you had about how to sort of build your dog into security rather than like just stepping a dog straight in? Be quite interesting to know myself if they sort of answered them questions, because we wasn't specifically answering your question, but when you asked it, I did think to myself, well, that's got a little bit to do with what we was talking about. So, but yeah, it's starting to, for those of you that aren't working out on sites, etc., the weather is starting to turn, and it's starting to turn to the point where you need to start thinking about wrapping up on shifts, having the extra layers, having the base layers on. If you're like me, having an extension lead with a portable heater in. A lot of people obviously have different ways in which they can heat their vans, whether it's off a generator or whether it's off an extension lead that's in. But yeah, like especially now, it's starting to get to that point where you want to start looking at some decent warm socks, some base layers. I mean, I always wear some sort of skin trousers underneath my work trousers. I normally wear them all year round, to be honest, because I just enjoy the tightness around my legs. So I normally wear them all year round, but I do have a very thin pair, which is what I've been wearing now. But I've got a thick pair for later on when it starts getting really cold. So you need to start thinking about base layers to wear under your trousers. You need to start thinking about some decent layers underneath your sort of t-shirts and jumpers, etc. Obviously, decent coats, hats, woolly gloves, snood, all that sort of stuff. You need to start thinking about that. But again, start thinking if you do have power on site, about making sure that you've got an extension lead with a portable heater. I just got like a little portable heater off Amazon. I think it was like 15 quid, and it's been a lifesaver. You can keep the inside of the van where you are warm, never have it really hot, because obviously you don't want the dog getting too hot. So you want to just keep it like decently warm enough that you maybe just need to have a jumper on or that. You don't need to have like your woolly gloves and all that on. Is there a go-to site for using to use for clothing, etc.? I want to do on the next podcast. I want to do uniform with UK Security 101, because UK Security 101 is really good with uniform in terms of like makes of boots, makes of jackets, etc. So I actually want to do on the next podcast. I was actually going to do uniform with him. I think we was going to do it on the last one, but it just runs so long that we decided to sort of cut it short. So on the next podcast, I definitely want to do uniform with him. In terms of, is there a go-to site? As far as I know, no. Someone did speak to me a little while ago, and whether this is something that happens soon or something that happens, so whether this happens soon or whether this is something that happens in the future, is that they was talking about me having some form of website where you can go on and it can be stuff that I recommend in terms of like, these are the jackets that I recommend, and you can like try and buy it through my website or whatever it is. It's like I'm not sure how this would all work, but having a website where you can go for clothing, security clothing, dog equipment, and different things like that, but stuff that I use or stuff that I recommend, or brands or websites that I recommend. I think that's something that I could possibly look at, so that when you are thinking about, oh, I need to get a new jacket or whatever, you can just go on a website that I've created and it'll say, right, these are the makes of jackets that I recommend, or it can say this is the make I recommend, and this is the jacket that, if you haven't got to worry about money, this is the one I would buy, but there obviously are cheaper ones. So that's something that I can look at, but definitely in the next podcast, that I might try and do pretty soon. I'll probably try and do pretty soon. We will do uniform in that, and we'll go a little bit in depth in terms of makes and etc. Where was I? Yeah, pretty cold on the weekend down by the water on the coast. There was on the Discord. What was it? Must have been Saturday night. I'm sitting there with my blanket, watching TV at home with my foot up on the puff thing, and the Discord goes bing, and everyone going, "Is it just me, or is it really, really cold?" And I couldn't help myself that I had to send them a picture of me sitting at home with my blanket over my legs, watching TV at home, going, "Yeah, it's a bit nippy." But yeah, I know a lot of you said over the weekend it was sort of where it started to get a bit cold, and I'd say this week, the 3 shifts that I've done, the heater has definitely been out. Like I say, not on full whack, but keeping me warm enough that I don't need to have my big jacket on, etc. Chip King, get a heater so if you knock it over, it switches off. That's a tip. Derms, you said Resolute K9 for GC as well. Thank you for helping him out. He says Resolute's close to him, so hopefully that might work out. But Derms also said clothing is very much down to what you can afford, and of course, I think everything with dog handling is, this is what you need. Find your own. Find what you're comfortable paying and pay that. Like there's like the hoodie or the jacket that I wear at the moment is just like a £40 North Face jacket, because I'm not going to go and spend 120, 130 quid on a jacket for sort of the autumn time where it's like 12, 11 degrees. So a lot of my boots were like 120. I understand that people may only want to pay 40, 50 pound for a pair of boots. My trousers are like £45 a pair, and I normally have a couple, but I know that people are not going to spend £90 on a 2 pair of working trousers. So it is very much down to what you can afford. But like I say, I think it's just important in terms of clothing that you make sure that you get layers, like your base layers in terms of like your skins or some thermal bottoms, and making sure that you've got some thermal tops, or like I say, some decent base layers, so that you don't have to have really expensive jackets that will keep you warm. If you've got enough layers on, you'll still be able to keep yourself warm that way, etc. So yeah, I mean, I've said that with a lot of people as well. I know, like, my body cam was like 230 quid. I know my torch was like 120 quid. And like, people ask me to sort of recommend stuff, and I always say to them, look, I'll recommend you what I have, there are cheaper ones. And I was helping someone out with a torch not that long ago, and they asked what torch I use. So I sent them the torch that I used. Said, look, this is the one I have. I understand that it's like £100+. I think it's about 100, 110. I think my torch was. I said, look, I understand that it's quite pricey, but if you go on their website, you can still pick up decent torches around sort of the 40, 50, £60 mark. And I think just to make sure he had a torch, is he got one of the 40, £50 ones, and now he's waiting for his next payday, or whenever he has a spare £100 that he can go, right, I can get myself one of the bigger torches now. The torch that he's got for 50 quid is still going to be good, but he wants to have obviously a decent backup. So he'll get the bigger torch as his main, and then he'll have the £50, which is just a decent backup. So yeah, with everything, just make sure that you don't bankrupt yourself. Completely understand that it is to do with what you can afford. But like I say, if people always ask me for recommendations, I will only recommend what I know. And when I first started, I was in a very fortunate position because we was during COVID, so it was kind of that because it was COVID, no one was spending any money. So obviously I wasn't spending any money. I was on furlough, so I was getting wages as well, and it was kind of like I don't know, £200, £300 that I would normally spend a month going out and doing stuff. All of a sudden I had £200 to go and buy a body cam, and I kind of went down the route of buying good quality early, hoping that I wouldn't have to replace it 2 years down the line. I'm not saying that would happen I'm not saying if you got like a £40 torch that you would need to, in 2-3 years, need to replace it, and the one I've got, maybe I don't. I'm not saying that, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure I set myself up right whilst I was in furlough and not spending any money, rather than not doing it and then coming out back into the normal world in terms of having to pay for stuff going out, etc., and then trying to find £100. So I was very fortunate when I started that I started at a time where I didn't have a lot of outgoings. So yeah, I understand a lot of people don't have that. People aren't lucky enough to have that amount of money to spend. Obviously I didn't, but it was just the time that we was going through was very lucky for me. So everything, like I said, I think it was like the last live or the podcast, whatever it was, I understand that all of the cards fell in my lap. Or is that even I don't even know if that's a saying. I've just absolutely butchered. But what I'm trying to say is I completely understand when I started, like all the stars aligned. Let's go with that. All the stars aligned when I decided I wanted to do this. Is that we was in lockdowns. I wasn't spending any money. I was still getting paid through the furlough. I had loads of time to train my dog, etc., etc. And that's probably why it was so smooth for me. And I understand it's not the same for everyone else. So if you don't have the money in order to buy the £160 jacket or £150 jacket, neither do I anymore. Don't do it. Like, make sure you just get a decent jacket at a price that you are willing to pay. Okay, we are coming up to 43 minutes and 20 seconds. Has anyone got a last couple of questions for the last couple of minutes? If anyone's got any last couple of questions, and then I think we'll call it a day on that, because I think that's been pretty good. I think I've gone into a little bit of sort of about the podcast, obviously the videos that you've got coming up. We've spoken about sort of clothing, etc., that I will do in the next podcast. So we'll get UK Security 101 in on it, because he is the man for equipment, etc. It's a shame that he works so hard that he doesn't have time to do his YouTube videos that he was doing, because they was really helpful for a lot of people. But also that's very pricey as well. So I think that's the thing you have to understand with the way that UK Security 101, he really wanted to do the YouTube stuff, and he really wanted to do the review stuff and the recommendation stuff. But I think everyone understands, if you're in this industry, everyone understands that you can't just be going out and buying £100 jacket just to review it on YouTube. Like that, that's just not feasible to do. So there are lots of people that do it to start off with, and they take a gamble of like, right, I'm going to throw £2,000 at trying to do this review channel and see if I can get it. But there are lots of people that are saying I'm not going to gamble with £2,000 in the hope that I might get some form of following on a YouTube channel for review stuff. So, but he is still the main man to speak to about it. eBay is always worth watching out for kit. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against secondhand stuff. Let's take my stab vest for example. When I spoke to, there's actually a bouncer down in my local village that was working on a pub, and I asked him about stab vests, and I think the one he gave me was about £230. Oh, sorry. Was about £230, and that was the one he was wearing, and he was like this is the one I wear, etc., etc. And then I spoke to UK Security 101. He's like, right, this is the one I use. You go on this website. Unfortunately, they don't do them anymore. I don't know whether they run out of stock or whatever. And basically, he got me a second-hand police issue stab vest for like 60 quid or whatever it was at the time. So I completely understand with that is that if you go on eBay, you can also find decent deals as well. Just one website that if you are looking, have a look on there if they do clothing, etc. But one website that I use to get my boots, and I've used to get, I think Patrol Store done my stab vest as well. Patrol Store is one website, so that's PATROLSTORE. So Patrol Store. I'll put the link in the description of this video. Patrol Store. That's where I've got my boots from. That's where I got my stab vest from. They probably do clothing, so I'll put their website in the description of this video as well. So if you want to go on there and have a look around, that's a website in which I can recommend in terms of service. They've been really good with boots, really good with my vest. They come here, they got very quickly as well. So Patrol Store, have a look on there. Maybe they've got some certain stuff as well. So that's maybe one that you can do for clothing. So we are coming up to 47 minutes exactly, and I'm going to leave it there. I want to thank everyone for coming in. Derms GC, Chip King, Porsche K9. Going to butcher because I'm going to miss some different people. UK Security 101 was in there. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anyone. Massive, GC, Mr. Bryce. Right. Thanks everyone that's coming in. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure that you watch the videos over the next couple of weeks. Questions with my trainer and fence line and collar grab. And yeah, I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below for loads more videos. And yeah, Derms. Cheers, guys. See you later on. Whoop, whoop.